Hello, Happy New Year to you. Welcome to Jackrabbit Journal. South Dakota State's basketball teams both off to very good starts to the season. Both are 2-0 already in Summit League play. The Jackrabbit women are up in the top 5 in the mid-major poll this week, and the Jackrabbits got 4 votes this week in the national AP poll, the big one with UConn and Notre Dame and Baylor. Aaron Johnston's team started Summit League play with wins on the road at Denver and North Dakota State. Those are 2 games the Jacks lost on the road last season, but not this year. Madison Giebert with 5 3-pointers at Denver, and the Jacks win that one by 37 points. And then Macy Miller with 29 points at North Dakota State. In 2 games over the weekend, Miller had 46 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and just 1 turnover in 57 minutes on the floor. And Macy Miller was named the Summit League Player of the Week. She and the Jackrabbits host Omaha this Thursday, and we will talk with Coach Johnston coming up about how his team is playing right now, getting into Summit League play. Meanwhile, a similar story with the Jackrabbit men, although they had a couple of much closer games at home to open up Summit League play. A 9-point win over the pesky Pioneers from Denver. George Marshall back in the lineup for the Jacks after missing 6 games with an injury. Marshall and Ian Tyson and Reed Tellinghuse all with 11 points in the win over Denver. And then on Sunday, a 4-point win over Western Illinois. Jacks were down by 5 at halftime because they just couldn't make any shots. And Leatherneck star Garrett Covington, meanwhile, was hot. He had 13 points in the first half, but Keaton Moffitt and the Jacks hold him to just 1 more made field goal in the second half. Jacks pick up the shooting a little bit in the second half. Marshall leads them again with 18, and Mike Dahm off the bench with 17 points and 7 rebounds as the Jackrabbits pull it out 63-59. And for once, head coach Scott Nagy is not talking about defense and rebounding because that has been pretty good. But what is going on at the offensive end with the Jackrabbit men? We will talk about that with the coach when we come back.
Jackrabbit Journal on Midco Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
Welcome back. Men's head coach Scott Nagy does not recruit players that just want to come in and score. You got to commit at the defensive end, get a rebound once in a while if you want to play for him. And for the most part, his guys are doing that right now. But they're having some issues putting up points right now. Here is the coach talking about the win on Sunday against Western Illinois and what the Jackrabbits can do to get their offensive mojo back.
Some of it is just your level of energy. That we didn't have much pace to us offensively. And they, if you go back and watch the film, I mean, they made some tough jump shots. I mean, shots that normally you'd be happy that your defense forced, contested. And sometimes they go in, and you just tip your hat and go down the other end. But when you're not getting stops, then it hurts your offense because you don't have a chance to run and get some easy shots. And then everything is in the half court, and it's much more difficult when they have 5 in front of you. So we weren't getting stops early, and offensively we didn't have any pace to us. And when I talk about pace, I'm not just talking about in the full court. I'm talking about even in our half court. We need to have good pace, good ball movement. In the second half, we had much more urgency to us. I mean, our guys were in attack mode at the basket, much more aggressive. And we're just way better when we're like that. And we have a lot of freedom in our offense, and we expect our guys to play and be aggressive and figure out ways to get to the free throw line and get easy points and just be on the attack. I mean, that's the way we want to play.
Yeah, did that in the second half. Got to the free throw line, I think, 18 times in the second half, banging on the offensive boards. And it didn't always turn into second chance points, but you kept hitting on the offensive boards and finally got a few at the end.
Yeah, and when you're shooting as poorly as we're shooting the ball right now, which over the last 6 games is around 35%, I mean, that's just at South Dakota State, we've not experienced that very often. And we have a good offensive team, and the way we started this year offensively, it just looked like that was always going to flow, and it's not right now. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. But the one thing we did is we took good care of the basketball. We had 6 turnovers in the game, and we're offensive rebounding. And when you're not shooting it well, you better do those 2 things. And our kids are still doing that. They're fighting. They're trying to figure out ways. And sometimes you get to a point where and your program is at a pretty good level, people just expect you to win by 20 every game, and if you win by 4 or 3 or 7 at home, they think something's wrong, and winning's just not enough. And I'm proud of our players that they're fighting through some of these offensive woes, and they're not allowing that to affect them defensively, and they're still playing with a lot of energy and trying to fight.
Yeah, you're winning close games, but I know you want more than just the win, right? I mean, you want them to play
well,
as well as they can.
I would like to play well, and we would like, particularly offensive, for things to flow well. But the most important thing is that they play hard and they don't get discouraged by the ball not going in the basket. Because sometimes I think kids can, when they're not playing well offensively, they let it affect everything. And I think our players are doing a pretty good job of still playing hard. And that's the most important thing to me. And great seasons are made up of games like the Western Illinois game, where things don't go the way you want them to go, and everything's a struggle, and you just figure out a way to fight and scrap and get the win.
It's almost easier to go back and play defense, isn't it, and rebound, instead of get frustrated at the offensive end. It's hard for kids to realize that.
Well, it is, but when you play good offensively, your defense tends to be better too, because it just gives you energy. It takes the pressure off your defense. They know that defense is the answer. They know that offense comes and goes, and it's gone away from us for a while. And we're hopeful to get everybody back and healthy here pretty soon. That's been part of the problem, is we've had a lot of guys in and out of lineups and playing guys at different positions, and so we just haven't had a lot of continuity, and it's starting to affect our offense. But the main thing is it can't affect our defense.
All right, and you get George back. He played really well in the second half against Western Illinois. Jake's coming back at some point here in the next couple of weeks.
Soon.
Right?
We have one game in the next 11 days, and we hope that at the end of that 11 days, Jake will be playing for us.
All right. IUPUI coming up in the next game Thursday. You've talked about they've got a lot of transfers in. They're kind of a transfer program. They have been, but some of these teams that have been at the bottom in the last couple of years are rising up a little bit, and it just seems like they're going to be tougher to play this year than they have in the past couple of years.
Well, I don't think our league has a bottom this year. I think, many years there's a big disparity between the top teams and the bottom teams, and I really do not see that this year. I think I wouldn't be surprised if 5 or 6 teams end up about 9-9 in our league. It is going to be a fight, and IUPUI is very well coached. They're a tough team. They're a physical team. They literally physically beat us up last year and just destroyed us on the glass, and we figured out a way to win there, and we know it's going to be a physical game. We could sit here and do the same interview every week. I'm just going to tell you, we have to be good defensively and we have to be tough.
But defense and rebounding are not issues right now. I don't know if you'll admit that, but
No,
they aren't, are they?
But we have to continue to do that, and I think our offense will come back. Now, it's tough for your offense to come back against an IUPUI team who's going to be physical, and you're playing on the road. But we're hopeful that stuff will come back, and I think having a couple of days of practice just to do what we do is going to help us.
All right, Aaron Johnston coming up next, talking about New Year's resolutions and the Minnesota Vikings and why his basketball team is playing so well right now.
Jackrabbit Journal on Midco Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
Welcome back. The SDSU women's basketball team is looking like the squad that is picked to win the Summit League this year. The Jackrabbits are off to a 2-0 start in Summit League play, and here is head coach Aaron Johnston. You guys are coming off a road trip that a year ago did not turn out very well at all. Went to North Dakota State and Denver, lost those 2 games, but you can't take anything for granted in this league.
No, we talked about it a bunch. Every game is critical. Our goals, as many teams in our league would have the similar goals, is to compete for a conference championship. If you're going to be in that conversation, you've got to take care of business, and every game is critical. And last year, lost at Denver, as you mentioned, lost at North Dakota State, and just really kind of took ourselves out of that contention with those 2 losses. So needed to play better, needed to start off well, and really in both games I thought we played very good basketball. So you're right, a big difference from this year to last year.
Yeah, it was. You take care of business this year. You beat North Dakota State 81-63. And just talk about that game first, fresh off that win. Sounded like a good start, tight in the middle, and then a very good finish for you guys.
I thought we played really well throughout the game. North Dakota State, to their credit, played incredibly hard and really kept themselves in it with some second chance points and getting to the free throw line. They got to the free throw line 19 times. I think they had 15, 16 points on second chance points. So about 30 roughly of their 60-some points came on those kind of plays. Our defense was excellent, held them in the 30s, for field goal percentage, didn't let them really get going. Thunstedt's a great player, great shooter. She got off for some threes. We'll need to figure out how to do better on that next time. But really, we did a good job of attacking the basket, scored a bunch of points in the paint. I know Macy had a big game of 29 points, but for the most part, we were really balanced. We really were. And her 29 was somewhat quiet. We didn't run a ton for her. So it was a good win on the road against a tough team.
All right, a quiet 29 for Miller. In the 2 games over the weekend, she had 46 points, 11 rebounds, 12 of 13 at the free throw line, 4 assists, 1 turnover in 57 minutes. That's incredible.
Yeah, she was solid. In the Denver game, they play a lot of zone, so it's not like she's able to do some of her normal things. She had to score in kind of different ways. One thing that's helped us out here in these last 2 games, we've put a ton of time into trying to generate our transition offense again. And we scored a lot of points in open floor situations, and Macy did as well. And she's hard to stop in those situations. Now that people are familiar with her tendencies, if it's just a half-court game, people can sit on certain things. It makes it a little more difficult for her. But now she's scoring 6-8 points in transition. It's really taken some of the pressure off our half-court offense.
All right. As you said, beat Denver 76-39 in the Summit League opener. Made a bunch of threes in that game. Maddie Giebert makes 5 threes. And just talk about how she's developed. And as a true freshman, was she kind of destined to be in that starting lineup, or why is it her in that starting 5 and not some of the older players?
She's really solid for us. I think 2 reasons. She has the ability to go off offensively and have those kind of nights. And then defensively, she is very much ahead of where most freshmen are. I would consider her one of our better perimeter defensive players. Great quickness. She's a lot stronger than people think she is. She does rebound better than kind of her size, and just has a real good feel for what we want defensively. And in addition, she can go off for some of those big games as she did against Denver. For instance, Chloe and Gabby, a couple of our seniors we bring off the bench, really solid for us. We like that experience coming in off the bench, but Maddie has that explosiveness offensively that maybe Chloe and Gabby don't right now, and that's why we like her in that spot. So she's done well for us. That game was a great game for her, really efficient. Hopefully she can build on that shooting performance.
All right. You talk about Gabby Bover. This is one of the best 6 women of all time, really. Isn't that a beautiful luxury to bring her off the bench?
Yeah, really a starter. Starter at the point guard for a couple of years, and now she's playing more of a 3-4 in a position she's never played before. I really think our success this year really falls with Gabby and Chloe, for that matter. Neither of them score a ton of points, so you don't, we talked about Macy and how special she is and some of those things, Maddie hitting those threes. I'm 100% certain we haven't won 12 games without Chloe and Gabby.
Yeah, Gabby's just ferocious defensively, of course. And you talk about your post players a little bit as well. We haven't talked about Ellie Thompson, Clarissa Ober. It seems like one or the other is going to have a big game almost every game out. Is that right?
Yeah, North Dakota State, Ellie, we were able to run some things for Ellie. And North Dakota State plays small at times, and she had a good matchup down there. And she's tough to handle for kind of a perimeter 4. If you have a true post on her, that's more of an even matchup. And she really handled that well. Double-double for her last night. And Clarissa is another one of those unsung heroes. She's had some big offensive games, but almost every game put her in the books for 7, 8, 9, 10 rebounds. She scores when she gets those chances. She can make some threes, so that puts a little pressure on the defense. She's a good passer, and she is one of the best defensive people that I've seen on the floor this year, any game. She really controls the middle. Not only her player, she gets a ton of steals on help side, a backdoor cut. She gets over there. She takes charges. She is a tremendous defensive player.
All right. You get Omaha here on Thursday, another team that's very improved. They got a pretty good inside-outside with Shaw and Remy Davenport. Okay?
You know what? They've just flown under the radar because they haven't been eligible for the NCAA tournament, and then now all of a sudden they're there. They're going to be a tough team for people to beat, including us. Shaw is as good as we have in our league, and their perimeter players. You mentioned, Remy's playing well, but other players have stepped up and made shots. They play a really difficult matchup zone. They rebound incredibly well out of it. So they're a tough team to beat. We've always had close games with them. And I don't doubt that Thursday is going to be another one of those kind of games.
All right. You're off to a great start. We talked about a lot of positive things. Anything that's not going the way you wanted to right now?
Well, got home last night just in time to see the Vikings win the division, which was another positive in my life. And I'm sure all those Vikings fans out there will enjoy that too. But, our team is playing well. Everybody's been healthy. We've been fortunate. Won a lot of close games. Things on campus here are going pretty well for us.
Well, Macy Miller and Remy Davenport of Omaha share the Summit League Player of the Week honors this week. They're a lot alike, both sophomores, both can score. Omaha is 2-0 in the league as they come to Frost Arena on Thursday. But the Jackrabbits should be up to the challenge. They've already played Notre Dame at home, beat a really good Northern Iowa team at home, lost a few on the road to Power Conference teams, and we will hear why they put themselves through the ringer every year coming up next.
Jackrabbit Journal on Midco Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
While using the what kill you doesn't make you stronger line of thinking, the South Dakota State women's basketball team puts together a schedule every year that is borderline sadistic. They play top 10 teams in the country like Notre Dame and Maryland this year, and it's all meant to challenge and to prepare them, and it works.
Since joining Division I, South Dakota State head coach Aaron Johnston has understood that in order to compete at the next level, you have to face teams that not only present challenges, but opportunities.
Our scheduling philosophy has always been the same. What can our team handle? I think that's always got to be a big part of it. How do we build our program regionally? How do we build our program through recruiting? How do we position ourselves for postseason play? How do we make ourselves better by competition throughout the season? I think we've always taken the same formula.
That formula has allowed SDSU to schedule home-and-home series with some of the biggest names in college basketball. And the biggest one made its first trip to Brookings on November 21st in the form of Notre Dame.
That's just been the history here at SDSU. Ever since I've been here, AJ gets those teams in Frost Arena. We go to their place. It only makes us better as a team, ability-wise, individually, and prepares us for our postseason, even our Summit League championships, when we're in crunch time.
The environment was wonderful against Notre Dame, as good as you'll see anywhere in college basketball. We'll appreciate some of those challenges, but we'll also try and figure out a way to get better too.
SDSU ended up losing to the number 3 team in the country by 11, but was competitive throughout most of the contest. And while it may seem small, the Jacks have used lessons from that game for the past month.
We learn from our mistakes because there were mistakes in that game, the reason why we lost. But we take positives knowing that we can compete with the top teams out there, and we just need to work harder and we can beat those teams.
At the end of the day, a loss is a loss, but you have to look at the things that you did well in that game, as well as the things that you have to get better with. You look at it and, yeah, they're a high caliber team, but we can stick with those teams, and we had multiple chances to win.
South Dakota State has made 6 of the last 7 NCAA tournaments, but only once has it advanced past the first round. Most of those opening round matchups came as a lower-tiered seed, where SDSU was forced to play on their opponent's home court, such as last season at Oregon State. The hope is that a stronger schedule, combined with a Summit League tournament championship, will allow the Jacks to get a higher seed and finally play an opponent on neutral ground.
We just think that it makes us a better program in many, many ways. And ultimately, yes, at the end of the year, we are evaluated on what our strength of schedule is, our PI, our opponents' records, all of those good things. So if we do what we're capable of, I think this nothing but helps us when it comes to postseason time.
Well, just this year, the Jackrabbits beat Arkansas and Pittsburgh and Creighton and DePaul, lost to Notre Dame, who was number 3 in the country, by 11, and Maryland, who was number 6 in the country at the time, by just 7 points. And the big goal, of course, to get back to the NCAA tournament, use all of this big-time experience to get a tournament win. That is something the Jacks last did in 2009 against TCU. Well, up next, he is from Alaska. He knows Sarah Palin. He has a new wife and a new baby, and he is in the Rapid Fire interview. Next.
Jackrabbit Journal on Midco Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
Welcome back. Jackrabbit Jr. Connor Devine sits down this week for the Rapid Fire interview. 10 quick questions with David Brown.
You're from Wasilla, Alaska, so the easy question is, have you ever met Sarah Palin?
I have. She's, Wasilla's not that big of a town, and so I used to see her a lot more, and actually her daughter used to play on my sister's basketball team, so I used to see her quite a bit.
So you know the Palin family, kind of?
Yes, I do, yeah.
All right, so the next one is, how many Sarah Palin jokes have you heard from either teammates or people around here who know you're from Wasilla?
Too many.
You ever get tired of them, or do they still come up?
Not as much as they used to, but it's not too bad.
What city is colder, Wasilla or Brookings?
I have to say just Brookings just because the wind. The wind makes it just a lot worse.
So it's not as bad in Alaska?
Depends where you're at, but Wasilla isn't quite as bad.
What's either the best or worst nickname you've ever had?
Oof. Man, that's a tough one. I like the nickname Condor just because of my wingspan. I think that's a pretty good one.
Not bad. Favorite food?
Favorite food? I'll have to just go with a cheeseburger on this one.
Can you eat a lot of cheeseburgers during basketball season?
Not as many as I do in the off season.
Who is the smelliest teammate?
I think, it's probably been said before, but Ian Tyson, he's for sure just the smelliest guy on the team.
Do you try and help?
I don't really think that's my role for him, but,
What is a song you have on your iPhone that you're embarrassed to admit publicly?
Oof. Just probably anything by Taylor Swift. I am a Taylor Swift fan. So.
You're a Swiftie.
Yeah.
Of you and all your teammates, which guy would survive on a desert island the longest?
For this, I'll have to go with Lane Severin. I just feel like he's a tough guy and he'd figure out a way to survive.
Wouldn't say yourself you wouldn't be able to, use your length and get coconuts from trees or anything like that?
No, my height would probably help with that, but I'll go with Lane on this one.
Who would win a horse contest between you and your teammates?
I'll just go with Mike Dom just because I think he practices those trick shots more than anyone else on the team.
All right, we'll end on a sentimental note. We heard you're a new father, so what's it been like to be the only dad on the team?
It's funny, all the guys give me a hard time, but it's been awesome. It's been amazing. I love being able to go home after practice and see him, so it's been great.
And Devine mentioned his sister Alicia. She is playing college basketball right now at Alaska Anchorage. Our thanks to Connor for playing along. The Jackrabbit women at home against Omaha on Thursday. We'll see you next week on Jackrabbit Journal.